Hello, and welcome back to the next tour with
Ian?
and Andia. Welcome to episode 32. This is a checkup on our transition. We're just going to give you a little checkup on where we've been and what we've been up to. So we thought this would be a good chance to just the two of us sit down and chat with our audience. So we're going to start with you, Ian.
Get going. I think kind of the idea of this episode is, over the last, little bit since I took off my uniform, folks have asked me, hey, how was transition? Was it easy? How's it gone since, you took off the uniform? How's it gone for the rest of the family? So I think this is kind of a good little touch point to give you all an insight into what's happened in, our lives, all four of us, including our two daughters, over the last, 2.5 years or so, and kind of what that feels like to maybe just give you some reassurances that, everything's going to be fine. But at the same time, it does continue to take work. It
It's
doesn't
a
end.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a process, right? Right. That's one of the biggest things that we always tell each other. It's like this is transition's not a destination, it's a process. And it seems, at least for us, it's been kind of an ever-changing process too. So it's been
True story.
kind of fun. So how long has it been?
Yeah. So I took my uniform off 2.5 years ago. It's been 26 months ish since I became a civilian. Crazy how time flies,
God,
right?
really?
Yeah, and, in that time, there's been a lot that has changed. Our family has gone through a lot of things. I've gone through a lot of things professionally and personally. It's just, yeah, as Andia said, it's not a destination. It's certainly a journey. And, I think, we're just here to help you understand that that journey is it's gonna have some turns. It's gonna have some on ramps and off ramps, but, embrace it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Speaking of jobs, where did you start out? Where are you now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I started off in the private sector and found that it wasn't for me. There was a particular position that I had, great company, they were doing wonderful things, but it was part of finding myself. So ultimately, what I ended up doing, of course, is I went back to the federal government. I wanted to be able to be in the national security space. I ended up doing that. I was at one agency for about a year. I've been with my current agency for a little over 8 months. And yeah, it's just really cool to be able to continue to give back to why I joined the military in the first place, to be able to give back to our country and serve. So yeah, that's kind of where I landed. And it's been a journey. It's been a lot of self discovery in there. It's taken a lot of reassurances to, between us and with friends to really say that, yeah, this is what I want to do. But I'm glad I did. It's again, finding yourself. So it's okay. Yes, I'm part of that massive percentage, that post military, we take a few jobs to figure it out. So it's okay. If that's what you, be happy. And I think
Yeah.
that's the part that matters the most.
And it's a process. Yeah. So I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's very likely that, the first job you get out of transition, you won't gonna be in for another 20 years, right?
Yeah.
There's gonna be twists and turns. And like, John, our friend John Hooley said, you're not in job jail, but also like that can make it confusing. Like, okay, well, I can leave. Should I move on
Yeah.
to the next? And I think, but you do have to figure out what's going to be best for you, and understanding that can sometimes take a lot of work and be quite the journey itself.
Yeah, and I think that the point that you hit on there, like with our friend, he said you're not in job jail. The part where I found that was the most helpful for me as I was going through these different jumps into different jobs is having those mentors and those confidants to be able to soundboard it and get the reassurances that what I was thinking was legit, that my rationale, it ultimately made sense, but at the end of the day, it made me happy, and I
Mhm.
think that that's the part that you can't feel guilty about being happy. So speaking of which, you had a job transition in this past year as well, so do you wanna kinda, like, pull the thread a little bit about that and how that made
Yeah.
you feel, particularly
Yeah.
as a host of a podcast based on transition?
That's right. So I left the organization that I was with for 12 and a half years and moved over to the Military Officers Association of America, which actually is kind of cool because one of the two teams that I run over there is actually career transition. So I moved sort of into this space for my career, which has been really cool. So we do a lot in the career transition space, helping service members and also military spouses to find their careers. But the most, I guess for me, like also, that was a huge transition. I mean, I didn't serve 20 years in the military or more, but, 12 years at one organization where, I had worn a lot of different hats. I had done a lot of different things over time, but I'd also become really
Mm.
comfortable in that position. So moving something totally outside my comfort zone. And man, did I have to give myself a lot of grace. I've been there for 2 months now, and it still remains a little hard for me that I don't like get everything or things don't come second nature to me. That has probably been one of the biggest like personal journeys for me because I get really frustrated with the fact that like I'm not getting things as quickly as I should. And I have to remind myself to give myself grace. And man, the people that I work with are just really amazing and have been so, so supportive. I'm feeling that same sort of feeling in some ways about going through my own transition, trying to figure out where I belong in an organization that's been around for a really long time, doing really excellent work. But it's been a lot.
Well, so what's interesting is, I think you're feeling a lot of potentially like what, some of our guests feel, particularly spouses and or children that have to uproot when the military member, moves. Because from a PCS perspective, that's what we do. Every time we move, it's learning something new, jumping right in, understanding that hey, an 80% solution may be the best thing that we can get for at least for the first part of it. And then we got to drive on. You had the unique opportunity in that previous role to carry that job with you as we moved from place to place. So I think having this experience is actually a really cool thing for you, especially in the role that you have with, career transition aspects of it. So bravo.
Thank
Way to
you.
go, babe.
I'm really loving it, but it's still a process. I'll get
True
there.
story. All right.
For sure. So, okay, so you mentioned at the beginning that our girls have been through some transitions this year, and probably the biggest, we had the girls on an episode
Yeah, in season one.
first, yeah, and at the beginning of our first season. And so we talked a lot about what Mackenzie was getting ready to do, and that really shifted. So, if
Yeah.
you want to talk a little bit about what the girls have been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, both were in school the last time that we caught up. Mackenzie was in her fourth year, Mina was in her second year. So, fast forward to last spring, Mackenzie was a senior. She was getting ready to graduate, and her world kind of got turned upside down a little bit. She was unable to commission in the Air Force. She was in the ROTC program at her university. And all of a sudden, with 2.5 months before graduation, she kind of had to figure out what to do. Was she going to go to grad school? Was she going to go into the workforce? And ultimately, she ended up landing a job and getting accepted into some grad programs. She took the career path to begin with and relocated later that summer and is, doing well. And now applying for grad programs to go online and use the tuition assistance program that her company offers. So she landed on 2 feet. And I think a lot of the resilience pieces that she learned were the military lifestyle as a kid. Our children tend to be exceptionally resilient and, giving them that foundation, I think was a really cool thing. And then Mina, now she's a third year. She had a little bit of an interesting kind of change. She's taken a couple of different, part-time jobs while she's a full-time student, but she kind of had to pivot real quick over this Christmas break. Been accepted to become a resident assistant or an RA starting in the fall of 2026. While she was here over the Christmas break, she got a call and said, hey, congratulations again on becoming an RA in the fall. We need you now. And so within about 2 weeks, she took a one week winter term class, moved out of her previous dorm and into her dormitory as an RA, all, within about a week and a half span. Oh my goodness. But again, landed on 2 feet because she just kind of embraced it and took these, tips and tricks that we talk about and we preach, but sought help, and understood that it was a journey and not just a destination. Yeah. So all four of us have kind of continued to go through it. I guess that's the whole point of this particular update on us is, you know, it is a journey and the journey continues. So, keep after it, folks.
That's right. That's right. And so, so proud of our girls and the way they've handled the things that life has thrown at them. Cause, it's not easy, but they have become resilient. And I know that's kind of a buzzword that people like to use now, but it's still the most encompassing word that I can find for it
Totally.
of how they can handle that pivot and to continue moving forward and also do so well. Really super proud of you guys.
For sure.
Hopefully you're watching. So yeah, it's been pretty amazing to watch them through their journeys. So, okay. So we talked a lot about our update.
Mm.
You and I, we like to do this when we go out on walks together and we come up with all sorts of great ideas and then have to come home and remember what we said to each other.
Right.
But you had a really good way of putting this when we were out chatting one day. So yeah, we
Yeah.
share that.
So I think this kind of gets after how I view, this journey, right? Where I kind of think of it as a sort of a play, right? Where you've got the different acts, and within each act, you've got different scenes. So, Act One was our military career. Act Two is now our post military career. And as we get into Act Three, that will be full retirement. And of course, in Act Two, I've now had multiple chapters or multiple scenes, with these different jobs and so forth. Our kids have, and so forth. So I think the moral of the story really is just being able to chunk this out into bite-sized pieces that are manageable and understand that all of it fits into a bigger piece as far as your planning. So kind of to that end, one of the things that I think Andia would, I want to ask you as a planner, a financial planner,
Mhm.
a career transition planner, as you work with all this stuff in your current role, as you do this stuff for us as a household, if you could kind of talk a little bit about what's happening in that framework for how we prepare for Act Three.
Yeah. So I think one of the big things that you've always done in your career, and I know a lot of military people do this too, but it's always like you're looking two steps ahead, right? So I feel like we're not getting ready to retire at this moment, but full retirement, obviously. But we are thinking, two steps ahead here. Where do we want to be when we are in, entering Act Three? And
Yeah,
I
the
think one
three
of the
shuns, right?
that's right, the three shuns, and
Yeah,
how important are those to us? Location, vocation,
compensation.
compensation. There
Yeah,
we go. And so I think it is really important for us to be looking ahead. So nobody has a crystal ball, right? Nobody can say exactly what our future is
or at
going to
least
look
one that
like,
works.
or at least one that
If you
works.
do, let us know.
Yeah, that's right. But I think one of the things we're really trying to do is make sure that in this last, probably decade of us of our working years, because we'd like to retire a little early. And yeah, that's right. And we're trying to get to, a certain pivotal point where we see ourselves, maintaining the lifestyle we have now and planning for that. So these years are really important to that goal. That we've got one kid off the books, we've got the other kid close to getting off the books, and then it's really us planning to make sure that we're comfortable and living the life we want to lead in Act 3. And so that's one of the things we've been talking a lot about lately, and I think that is, we live in the present. We want to make sure we're taking vacations and enjoying life as it is now, but also really with an eye to the future and making sure that we're ready to go when we don't have to work Monday through Friday anymore. But I think that's probably our biggest thing right now is
Yeah.
making sure that we are set up
Mhm.
for that full retirement and thinking those two steps ahead as everybody needs to be doing.
Yeah, look at the different scenes in the next act, and prepare for them. And I think
That's
that
right.
that's the point of this whole thing, and this kind of checkup update really is all of the guests that we've had on, bring a piece or a perspective of this massive journey, this process. So being able to kind of think about it in these, again, these bite-sized chunks, being able to get after it, what you need to take care of, that's really what it's all about. And it doesn't stop. The transition has been deliberate. It's taken some brain power. It's certainly taken, a turn where it's been stressful, because anybody who says the transition is easy is either not prepared or they probably are not being fully honest
Either with
with
themselves
themselves or
or
with others.
like I love
Um,
though you put it that way. I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
funny.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so just again, hopefully this is just a reassurance, just to let you know that yeah, it's all going to be fine. But put the work into it and reach out and ask for help and ask questions and find the truthful resources out there. We've got all of our show notes for all of our episodes on the website, thenexttourpodcast.com. You can go back in, see what the topic is, get into those show notes. check out those resources, connect with our guests, and really dig into the factual matter of all this stuff that we've put out there. And again, more content to come as well, too.
Yeah, yeah, I think we're looking forward to this season talking about some different subjects and different topics, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
We continue on.
for sure. And we will have our repeat guest, Jason Metzger, on here in a few more months after he has his retirement ceremony. And we'll be able to kind of see how that feels for him. And then, again, just kind of document the progress as he goes through this, from a couple years prior all the way through and then post.
Our
So,
longitudinal study.
yes, absolutely. I like that. Yeah. Nice psych term there.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. Awesome. Well, thank you for watching. And thank you. And like Ian said, check us out on our website, thenexttourpodcast.com, and also wherever you find podcasts and YouTube, and connect with us. Let us know. I know if there's something you're interested in, we'd love to take your ideas as well.
Thanks, everybody.
The views, opinions, and advice expressed by our guest on the next tour are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast, Ian, Andia, or any affiliated organizations. While we strive to provide helpful and accurate information, this podcast is for informational purposes only. We encourage listeners to consult with professionals or conduct their own research before making any significant decisions related to military transition or post-service life. The content is intended as guidance and personal perspective, not as official advice.